Hello, and welcome to this overview of historical romance characters who are back from the dead. I'm Olivia, your favorite resource for book recommendations you can easily screenshot, and you're watching Random Olive Reads. The Duke's Unexpected Love by Alexa Aston is book one of the Strongs of Shadowcrest series. We start with a tragic prologue for James, who's a Duke's heir that gets abducted by sailors and forced onto a ship with limited memory of who he is. Of course, his family believes that he's lost and declared dead. Many years later, we find out that he's the captain of a ship for a prosperous shipping line and recently landed in England for his next assignment. A drunkard who turns out to be his childhood tutor recognizes him in a tavern and insists that he's a lord. James is pretty much shocked and surprised, but when he visits the Duke's household, he's instantly recognized as the missing son of the Duke. Meanwhile, Sophie, the owner of the shipping company, is recently widowed and she's considering propositioning James for an affair, even though he has bigger ideas for her. One Night for Love by Mary Balog is book one of the Bedouin prequels. Neville is waiting at the altar for his bride, but before she can make it down the aisle, another woman named Lily shows up and Neville says that she's his wife. Years ago, when he was away in the military, Neville had married the sergeant's daughter. They were attacked in an ambush, and he believed that she died. He recovers and goes back home to his noble duties, but it turns out she was a captive the whole time, and when she was finally released, she comes to find Neville. After that, we have a lot of drama involving social class differences and Neville being engaged to somebody else, but they find a way to work it out. Someone to Romance by Mary Balog is book seven of the Westcott series. Jessica, the sister of a duke, has finally decided that she will get married this year in her sixth or seventh season. While she typically has a court of interested suitors, she's looking forward to meeting the newcomers of the ton. Gabriel has spent the past 13 years in America after fleeing England due to some scandal, and now he's back to claim his rightful title and take care of the people living on his estate. Upon meeting Jessica, he arrogantly decides that he'll marry her since the sister of a duke will fulfill all of the practical criteria he has for a wife. Except that Jessica is totally angry and insulted by this. This book had a lot of mysteries to unravel with Gabriel's background, and it turns out that his family had presumed that he was dead all this time, and so he has to do a bit of work to reclaim his status. One Week as Lovers by Victoria Dahl is book three of the Summerheart series. Lord Lancaster, an impoverished viscount, catches his wealthy fiancée with another man at a ball, but knows he's stuck marrying her anyway. When he gets a letter that his childhood friend Cynthia has died, he rushes back to his childhood home to pay his respects. When he's there, he finds out she's not dead after all, but she faked her death in order to escape an arranged marriage to a horrible suitor. Lancaster is fighting his own demons from his history of a happy childhood turning into a darker adolescence, and he's trying really hard to resist his attraction for Cynthia. It doesn't last long though, because they team up to find some buried treasure in some caves on Lancaster land. It's Always Been You by Victoria Dahl is book two of the York family series. Aidan, the second son of a baron, had loved and lost when his sweetheart died at sea. After that tragedy, he turned into a cold and unfeeling rake. In a small shipping town on business, he sees the woman that looks just like his old sweetheart Kate and follows her into the shop. Well, it turns out Kate didn't die after all, and her parents lied about the death and then married her off to a plantation owner in Ceylon. After suffering a horrible marriage, she has fled and built a new identity and business in England. While Aidan and Kate reconnect and find out what thwarted them all those years ago, Kate is still keeping secrets about her marriage. The Lady He Lost by Faye Delacour is book one of the Lucky Ladies of London series. Naval Lieutenant Eli is back from the dead after being shipwrecked and captured by pirates to find out that he has no money, no fiance, and might be questioned by his bosses about his time away from the Navy. His former friend Jane is being cold and he doesn't know why, but he definitely wants to regain her friendship. Well, we find out that Eli and Jane had a strong friendship up until the point when Eli gets caught in a compromising position with Jane's prettier and more sociable cousin and then has to get engaged to her. Stuck doing the honorable thing and staying engaged to the woman he doesn't like, he runs off and joins the Navy. It's basically a cluster of immaturity for Eli there. And meanwhile, Jane's trying to settle her future with a gambling club and things like that. They ultimately end up at a house party together and try to work out their differences. Make Mine a Marquess by Tina Gabrielle is book 3 of the Daring Lady series. We have a newly returned Marquess of Landon who's coming back for revenge against his cousin who may have caused the shipwreck that left the man for dead. He also decides he's going to seduce the man's fiancée for fun. Landon's just hoping to find evidence of his cousin's guilt and reclaim ownership of his estate. Phoebe is mostly the innocent victim here and trying really hard to resist the seductions of Landon. A Lady for a Duke by Alexis Hall is a standalone romance. We have a presumed dead best friend romance here with a trans woman who left her previous name and title after being declared dead in the war. She's now living as a lady's companion to her sister-in-law and visiting her previous best friend who's been grief-stricken since he believed that his friend died. They reconnect with a new understanding of each other and their identities, but still have to deal with the societal expectations of him being a duke. The Baron's Betrayal by Callie Hutton is book 4 of the Marriage Mart Mayhem series. Marion is the widowed older sister of the family and faints when she sees her husband at a local assembly. Turns out he was lost at sea, severely injured, and now blind. Tristan thinks that his blindness makes him an incapable husband or father, so he stayed away from Marion, letting her think that he was dead so that she could remarry and have a happy life. He's insistent on seeking a divorce, even though that's totally scandalous and impractical in this time period. Stubborn Marion wants her husband back, so she just moves in with him and follows him wherever he goes. The Runaway Duke by Julianne Long is a standalone novel where Rebecca is a young lady who accidentally gets caught in a compromising situation with an impoverished baron who meant to compromise her sister, but now she's engaged to this man she doesn't love. Luckily, her father's head groom Connor agrees to help Rebecca escape. Except that Connor is not actually a groom at all, but the heir to a duke who is presumed dead in the war and is living free of his duties and responsibilities. It'll just take some time before people realize who he really is and what he's running away from. Angel in a Devil's Arms by Julianne Long is book 2 of the Palace of Rogues series. So our guy Lucian was thrown into the river and presumed dead, and now he's back after 10 years. Angelique is the former mistress of an earl, and now she's the proprietress of a boarding house on the docks, and she's pretty happy with her current situation. So when Lucien comes back to claim the room that he's reserved at the boarding house, Angelique is instantly wary of his motives and tries to protect her own heart. He's back after being, thrown in the Thames, and he's out for revenge. Except that he's distracted by his attraction to Angelique and her denial of his attentions. This turned out to be a really nice, slow burn romance as these two become friends and then lovers. Revealing the Viscount by Lexi Post is book 3 of the Marrying a Mabry series. Mariel is the oldest Mabry sister whose beloved fiance had died in war. She married someone much older to restore her family's finances, and now she's a widow. She just learned that her once fiance is not dead after all and forced to come out of hiding to become a Viscount after his brother's death. Marcus has definitely been hiding from Mariel at first because he thinks that she betrayed him by getting married so soon after his supposed death, and then because he thought he was incapable of siring children after witnessing atrocities during war. As they meet again, then they start like a fake engagement so that he can keep the other debutantes away from him. But of course, as they spend more time together, they realize that they are still totally perfect for each other and need to reconcile and end up together. Taming the Savage Duke by Barbara Russell is book one of the Victorian Outcast series. There is chaos and tragedy for everyone involved in this book. Maddie is on the cusp of receiving entry into a prestigious art academy, but an accident involving an overzealous botanist leaves her painting ruined and her hand injured and unable to paint. Hector is the brother of a duke who wants to get into his own scientific academy and accidentally injures Maddie while he's trying to collect a rare plant. He feels terribly guilty for her injury and only takes his place on a South American expedition after she encourages him to leave. Unfortunately, his ship goes down before he even reaches his destination and he's declared dead. 8 years later, Hector is found alive, having survived alone on an island all this time. In the meantime, his mother and brother had both passed away, and his horrible cousin is now the Duke. Maddie gets involved to assist Hector in regaining his manners and civility to try to gain his title back. This romance was slow and sweet and low angst, while we work out the external drama of the villain cousin. Betting Against the Scoundrel by Mariah Stone is book 4 of the Dukes and Secrets series. Former Duke Spencer is back from his involuntary stint in the Navy, where his family had believed that he died. Now he's back with a limp, nightmares, and a lack of direction. His brother and heir, Preston, is irrevocably the new Duke and also married to the woman Spencer had loved and wanted to marry. Although everyone's glad to see Spencer alive, he's broody and isolated and set on revenge against the corrupt Duke who sent him to sea. Meanwhile, the overlooked and ignored Joanna is attempting to rescue her own family from ruin by that same Duke, who's also her uncle, by looking for blackmail material. She and Spencer are at odds at first, but then they slowly realize they should team up against their common enemy. Thank you so much for watching this video. Hopefully you found a book or two to add to your TBR. Links to all of these books are in the description box. Like and subscribe to get updates, and you can follow me on Instagram at randomolive.